Law had to know. That's why he had the reaction. Because he knew there were others.
I think that's the bigger story.
But the numbers clearly indicate that there were senior clergy involved.
That's all they do. Indicate.
Are you telling me that if we run a store with 50 pedophile priests in Boston...
Mike, we'll get into the same catfight you got into on Porter, which made a lot of noise, but changed things not one bit. We need to focus on the institution, not the individual priests. Practice and policy. Show me the church manipulated the system so that these guys wouldn't have to face charges. Show me they put those same priests back into parishes time and time again. Show me this was systemic, that it came from the top down.
Welcome to Kermode Uncut. Spotlight was just coming out on DVD. The film, of course, won the Oscar for Best Picture, I think surprisingly for some people. And I was just thinking about what it was about the movie that was special. You'll probably know the story. It's a film about the Boston Globe's investigation of allegations of a cover-up of child abuse within the Catholic Church. And the film has a very fine ensemble cast with Mark Ruffalo and Michael Keaton and Rachel McAdams, and it's brilliantly directed by Tom McCarthy, who has a very good sense of the newspaper milieu. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why the film struck such a chord, because generally, when it comes to cinema, newspapers and reporters have not been very accurately portrayed. I was just sort of looking online to try and find like lists of great movies dealing with newspapers. Came up with all the usual suspects. So Citizen Kane. I mean, yes, Citizen Kane is nominally about a newspaper mogul, though actually it's about far more than that. All the President's Men still remains the high watermark, the film to which Spotlight was most regularly compared when people were talking about how authentic the office life seemed. But then, of course, there's films like His Girl Friday, the 1940 comedy directed by Howard Hawks with Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell. And of course, that was remade in 1974 as The Front Page, directed by Billy Wilder. Again, a really fine piece of work and actually quite a good sense of the newspaper milieu. Then you think about things more recently, like, for example, The Fifth Estate, which attempted and didn't entirely succeed in capturing the way in which newspapers and the internet overlapped in the case of Julian Assange. And what it seems to me films find most difficult to portray on screen is the drudgery of working in a newspaper. When I first started in journalism, I worked at City Life in Manchester. It was a magazine, it was an entertainment magazine, but it had a strong news element. It came out every other week, and we would put the magazine together, you know, very, very carefully, and everybody would do a little bit of everything. Everybody would do some typesetting, everybody would do some editing. I remember very clearly a guy called Andy Lovett used to edit with a scalpel. I once gave him a piece of work, and he said, "This review is too long." I said, "How long?" He said, "About 2 inches too long." Literally just cut the bottom of it off with a scalpel. But what it had was a sense of mundaneness. And actually, I think what Spotlight manages to capture, and is brilliantly captured in All the President's Men, is the fact that journalism, actually, a lot of it is fantastically mundane. In terms of investigative reporting, it's to do with shoe leather, it's to do with phone calls, it's to do with rifling through files, it's to do with stuff which fundamentally doesn't seem to be very cinematic. What Spotlight manages to do is to take that apparently uncinematic material and make it dramatic. And how does it do it? Well, by sticking close enough to the truth that you believe that what you're seeing is real, but also by populating the drama with characters who are not overacting, with characters who are not chasing and running and shouting, but people who are generally doing things in a workaday fashion. You know, the truth of the matter is, when it comes to newspapers, it's an awful lot of stuff that just looks a bit boring. And yet somehow the very best movies about newspapers are anything but.
Mitch, are you telling me that the Catholic Church removed legal documents from that courthouse?
Look, I'm not crazy. I'm not paranoid. I'm experienced. Check the docket. You'll see. They control everything.